Hello, hello. See, we got folks joining in here. Super excited to be your host and moderator for today and welcome you to the Intuit Stronger Together series, how to grow through mentors and sponsors. So, we're going to give folks a couple more minutes to start joining in. And while we wait, I would love for y'all to participate in the chat. Tell us where you're joining in from. But before you do, be sure you select everyone from the drop down menu so we can be sure to see your stuff in the chat. So let us know where you're joining in from, and we'll get started here shortly. All right. So, yeah, actually, we got a couple poll questions here for you today as well. So, feel free to let us know what your intent is for joining this session. And we got three questions. So, we'll give you a minute to fill out this first one, and then we'll move on to the next one here in a second. Got it, got it, got it, got it. Okay, so we're seeing that the Q&A is live, but the chat is inactive. So, Randy, I don't know if we can turn the chat on for folks to engage, so we can, reserve the Q&A for the Q&A portion of the conversation later today. There we go. All right, so you all should be able to chat now. Can we test it? If you can use the chat, can you put your favorite emoji in there to see if it's working? And make sure you select everyone. Cool, there we go. There it is. All right, awesome. I love that. Love that. All right, so let's go ahead and, okay, we got Austin, New York City, Edinburgh, California, West Coast. What's up? Dallas, San Diego. Love it. We got folks from all over. This is incredible. So now that we see you there in the chat, let's go ahead and knock out these poll questions here. If we can go ahead and click over to the next question, which may feel a little bit redundant because we just asked you where you're from. So maybe just hop over to the third question about, how you feel your organization represents your unique background and identity. Cool, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and close that out. And yeah, thank you all so much for coming. My name is Aladrian Goods. I am a content design manager here at Intuit, based in San Diego, California, and super excited to be the moderator and host for this event here today. Just some housekeeping, as you all already figured out, we got the chat working now and the Q&A feature here in Zoom. So make sure to use the Q&A for your questions. We'll have dedicated time to answer that from our panelists later in today's session. And use Zoom to engage. So if you have plus ones, if you have reactions, thumbs up, drop it in the chat there, and make sure you select everyone so we can all see what you have to say. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get our panelists up here. So first, I'd like to introduce Brandon Mitchell, a group product manager here at Intuit. Then we'll bring on Clarice Gray, staff business data analyst, Kent Abney, the TurboTax Live manager, and last but not least, Kevin Sample, our corporate account manager here on our sales team at Intuit. What's up, folks? How y'all doing today?
Good.
Good.
Good to be here.
Great.
Great to see you. Great to see you. Let's see. I can't see Kevin or Kent. You guys want to join us on stage?
Yep. We clicked, it just didn't show him.
All right, there we go. Awesome. Let's get those folks pinned, and we will be ready to go. So before we get started here, Brandon, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and when's the last time you did something for the first time?
So my name is Brandon Mitchell. It's a pleasure to speak with you all today. I am currently a group product manager here at Intuit for the TurboTax Innovation Group. I have been with Intuit for 4 years. I'm originally from Oklahoma, but I currently live in Texas. So there's a little bit of conflict as it relates to Oklahoma, Texas from that standpoint. But one thing that I have done, the thing that I've done recently for the first time is with my family. We just went on a family vacation. I have a 4-year-old daughter, a 1-year-old little boy, and we haven't been on a family vacation together. So we just did something local. We went to this hotel that's got like water parks and all kinds of stuff for kids. And so it was a good time. So looking forward to doing that again, even though we did it for the first time.
I love it. That's awesome. And I know you're a new dad of 2, so congratulations there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more family vacations and water parks in your future for at least the next 18 years. So
For sure.
shout out to you. Clarice, what's up? How are you?
Good. Greetings from San Diego. Clarice Gray. I do continuous improvement work here at Intuit, which basically means I use process improvement and design thinking skills to enhance our customer and expert experiences. Been with the company for almost 3 years and really enjoy it. And the thing that I did recently, a couple months ago, I took an aerial hoop class. So if anyone's ever seen like Cirque du Soleil and you're like, how do these people spin around up in the air in these hoops? That's what I did, and realized I don't have stomach muscles anymore after having 2 kids. So I was in pain the next couple of days, but it was good. It was well worth it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I see a trend here, like parents of 2 happening. And yeah, aerial, what was it called? Aerial gymnast?
Aerial hoop.
Aerial hoop. Okay.
Hoop. So like, like a hula hoop up in the air.
I see, like in the air. Okay, got it. Yeah, you said Cirque du Soleil, so that's super fun. Thank you so much for sharing that as well. I'm gonna pass it over to Kent. What's up, Kent? How are you?
Hey, Adrian, I'm doing great. Greetings, everybody. And the gray hair tells you I'm smart enough not to try that, Clarice. Uh, I'm coming to you today from Norfolk, Virginia, by way of 25 years in Austin, Texas, Brandon, and a couple in Colorado. I'm a full-time manager, M1 manager at TurboTax Live. I'm starting my 7th season here. I've had the privilege over those years to not only be a tax expert myself, but to then get to manage teams of tax experts, CPAs, attorneys, EAs. And now I'm working with leads and managers as well, leading a leadership class this year, which kind of ties into what we're doing here. Just finally, the thing that I've done recently for the first time, I do a lot of hiking, having been in Colorado, and I was hiking recently in the Blue Ridge Mountains here in Virginia, and going up a pretty steep incline, got my foot caught between 2 rocks and ended up tweaking my knee 1 mile into a 6-mile climb. And by the time I got back down, my knee was hurting pretty bad. And so I went and sat on a rocking chair in front of the porch, iced it down, and remembered there was a fishing pond close by. So our oldest son and I went over to the fishing pond, and in a matter of about 30 minutes, caught a couple of 5-pound bass. So I quickly lost track of my knee bothering me. So that's something, Brandon, I want to do again soon too.
That's absolutely incredible. Shout out to you for making the best out of a tough situation. I've had a couple knee injuries, so I know knees are very important and hard to rehab from. So I'm glad you were able to find something that was low impact, but still sounds like it was a lot of fun.
Back to hiking.
Yep. Last but not least, Kevin. What's going on, Kevin?
What's up, guys? Kevin Sample. I'm actually one of the corporate account managers for our ProTax group. So I work with our first year corporate accounts that are coming on, getting their tax practice set up, as well as our high value customers that are looking to go somewhere else, trying to make sure we keep them all in the family. This is my 4th year here at Intuit, and I am originally from Frisco, Texas. Recently, one of the first things that I did, I went to Tyler, Texas, out in West Texas, and went to Culture ETX, had a great pork chop, as on the Texas bucket list show that I saw there. So I had to hit that place up. If you guys are ever in that area, Culture ETX is the place to go for pork chops.
All right, good to know. I lived in Texas for 5 years, have never heard of that place. So I guess next time I go, maybe I'll find my way to Tyler, Texas to get a pork chop. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this conversation off. So we're here talking about, Stronger Together, and Intuit Stronger Together is everyone coming from different backgrounds, different experiences, but using all those things to help deliver for our customers. So Clarice, I'll start with you. What are your most important identities, and how does this connect to where you found your places of belonging here at Intuit?
Yeah. First and foremost, my favorite, most important title I have is mother. It really changed my life almost 10 years ago. And then wife and a woman and being Asian. When I joined Intuit, I found the Asia Pacific Network, realized they didn't have a site chair here in San Diego, and got involved. And this is actually the first time in my 25 years of employment I've ever joined an Asian cultural group. And so it's been, I think at this point in my life, like it's something that I'm realizing that I need to be more connected with. And the last thing I wanted, my identity is I'm a big party planner. So if my kids want to do a red carpet birthday party, you got it. It has photographers and lights and decorations, and I make Oreo cookies with they look like film reels. So lots of fun going around.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Might have to hit you up for some events here in the near future. Good to know. Brandon, what about you? What are some of your most important identities, and how does that help you find your place of belonging at Intuit?
Yeah, so my most important identities, the ones that come to mind are first and foremost my faith. That's very important to me and my family. Being a father, being a husband. I'm also a fierce competitor. I mentioned that I'm from Oklahoma. I live in Texas, so all things OU. If I play you in a game of spades, I talk a little trash. I guess I can associate my identity with that. And then also being a builder. Like I absolutely have always loved being able to just think something up in your mind and being able to hold it in your hand. And that's what got me into product management. And I think the tie to Intuit from that standpoint, over the 4 years that I've been here, I've had 2 opportunities to create 0 to 1 products or build products from scratch and basically, run a startup. And that has been a tremendous opportunity. And I think for anyone, and I've had a great time here at Intuit being able to do that. And there's lots of opportunities to do that here at this company. So that's how I see the connection between things that I identify with and my sense of belonging here at Intuit.
Yeah, love it. Love that you get to find that competitive spirit, place for that, place for your faith, as well as like a place for you to create something from an idea to getting it funded. So maybe we could talk a little bit more about that a little later, and how your mentors and sponsors have kind of supported you through that experience too. Kent, what about you?
Yeah, so like Brandon, I like the competitive part of things. Spending time in Austin, we have quite a rivalry with Oklahoma over there, Brandon. So I'm looking forward to the game this year. We got a pretty good quarterback. But here at Intuit, as I think Clarice said, I've been really thrilled with the kind of interaction that takes place among the folks here in Intuit. We talk a lot about diversity. We talk a lot about differences. And this is one of the only places I've ever worked in a 50-year career where there's real meaning to those words. A lot of people talk the talk, but not many companies walk the walk. And that's one of the things that I've found the most rewarding here. In terms of identities, I would have to share the same as Brandon and Clarice. would be a father, it would be a husband. I've had the privilege to be a leader for many years in different areas as an attorney and a CPA, and the chance to work with fellow professionals here and help them grow and develop has been extremely rewarding for me. And particularly, as you guys can tell by looking at the pictures, I'm the old dog on this screen here, and the chance to work with energetic, young, thoughtful professionals like the group we've got here today really has made this part of my career, kind of on the last end of my career, an extremely rewarding one. So, if you're looking at this as a company to consider, not many companies really have the kind of opportunities that this company has across all age brackets, and that really makes it very unique.
Yeah, I love that. I love the spectrum of experiences, right? So Kevin, I know you lead our next gen network, so would love to hear, what are your most important identities and how have you found belonging at Intuit?
Yeah, so thank you. Being an early career grad, this is my first big job out of college. So that's a really big piece of my identity, is trying to just navigate this corporate life and being a professional in this type of environment. So I definitely see that as a big part of my identity, along with being in sales and being an African American. So the sales piece of it gives me a lot of customer empathy, having these conversations on a day-to-day basis, being able to understand people's different walks of lives and how we can apply that to bring out the best that we can do for our customers.
Yeah, love that. All right, so we're here today to talk about mentorship and sponsorship. So I love having a definition before we dive into something. So Kevin, we'll stick with you. How do you define mentors and sponsors, and is there a difference?
So for me, I really see a mentor as more of a one-to-one relationship with someone that we've grown this relationship, and there's an intentionality on what I need from them and what they're looking for from me. So I would say the mentorship is a little more structured. It can be formal or informal, but I find sponsorship is more of, hey, this person knows I do good work and they're willing to vouch for me when I'm not in the room. So whether that's making a decision recommendation for a professional opportunity, or hey, this person would be a good fit for this opportunity as well. That's someone that can advocate for you and amplify your work when you're not there to speak for yourself.
Yes, I love that. So mentorship, one-to-one, sponsorship, maybe one to few, but those few people are going, taking what they know about you and your work and talking about it in rooms that you're not in.
Exactly.
Brandon, was there anything you would like to add or contribute to that?
I think it was a great definition, Kevin. I think for mentors, many folks can be your mentors, because mentors is really all about growing in your craft or your skill set. You can have family members as mentors, you can have coworkers or peers, you can have, even if you're in management, you can have folks that are your direct reports that you can still learn from in a specific area where you're trying to learn, grow, or develop. And so I think that's the only thing I would add in terms of the mentorship category. But Kevin, I think you hit the nail right on the head, in the sense that a sponsorship is a very intentional relationship that you've created, where you have identified a set of goals that you want to accomplish, and that person is there to advocate for you on your behalf to help you achieve those goals. And so that's the biggest distinction and difference. You can find sponsors who can be mentors, but not all mentors can be sponsors. So we can dive more into that and have that discussion as well.
Yeah, I love that. Clarice, I see you nodding your head there. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Yes, I have had sponsors and mentors in my life, and it's kind of those folks that going to a women's conference, international women's conference, like over 10 years ago, and a CEO talking about building your own personal board of directors, right? These are the people that can help support and guide you through your life, whether that's personal, career, relationships. I think it's important to have a diverse group of people supporting you. And mentors don't actually have to always be career-wise, like I mentioned. They could be people that just help you with being a great parent, being a great person. How do I get involved with social injustice? So, but yeah, I do agree with sponsors, absolutely, in your company, to see how they can help promote you and expose you to new opportunities.
Love that. Kent, so thinking about like the different definitions of mentorship and sponsorship, how do I know when I'm ready for a mentor or when I'm ready to ask someone to be a sponsor?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And just to add one comment, because I think they're all saying the same thing. You can have sponsors and mentors kind of throughout your career. I wanted to highlight the fact that a lot of times you have sponsors when you're just starting out. Oftentimes, even before you know what you want to do, you have people that recognize certain goals and aspirations in you and start to move you in that direction. It can be a teacher, it can be a coach, it can be a friend or a family member that will start to move you toward a direction. And then, of course, mentors, once you're in a career, they can help you advance in that career or even seek a different career if they find that you're not in the right spot. I don't know that age really makes that much difference of when you can be a sponsor or a mentor, or when you need a sponsor or a mentor even. I think they can show up in your life when, wherever you are. I don't think it's necessarily age related, but I definitely think it's important to have both sponsors and mentors in your life.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said. Like, we know that it's important to have it, but can you give me an example of like when is a good time to start seeking out a mentor or a sponsor?
Yeah. So, again, I think for most people, Kevin's, in his first real job. And so obviously I would guess he got here on the backs of somebody sponsoring him in a direction when he was still in school and trying to identify where he wanted to go. So, I don't think I think any time in your career is a good time to get a sponsor. Clarice mentioned seeking out sponsors, and I think you can either seek them out or they can seek you out, just depending on your relationship. And as far as a mentor, I would say the minute you get into a career, even if you think it's going to be short term or long time, I would immediately look for someone that can start to mentor me so that I know what's important about the role I'm in and what may not be quite as important. Because there's a lot of white noise when you're in a job nowadays, and knowing what to focus your time and energy on can really advance your career a lot if you've got a mentor giving you guidance.
Yeah, I love that. So it's like really taking that wisdom that they already may have and then helping, narrow your focus in the path ahead. Brandon, I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts? Like, when do I know that I'm ready for mentorship or sponsorship?
I'd say, one thing that's really, really important that I've just learned throughout my career and life in general is never wait until you need something to start asking for it. And I think whether you're entering an organization for the first time or you've gotten a new role, I think it's important to go in trying to glean information and learn from others. So I think at that point is the right time to start trying to find mentors and help, grow and just your understanding of the space and the area that you're in, or just based on the goals that you may have. That specifically is also very important for thinking about sponsors. I think the one prerequisite I would have or give you all is that you want to have an idea of what your goals are. And if you don't know, maybe that's where you get a mentorship or someone you can sit down that can help you craft out those goals and can pull that out of you. But if you're going to a sponsor and you're saying, hey, I want you to advocate for me and I want to be in this role, and you don't know what that role is, there's kind of a disconnect. So you just want to at least make sure you have an idea of what it is that you want to do so that you can start to expose that person to your work, expose that person to your character. So you can kind of win them over as a sponsor. They would be willing to advocate for you on your behalf.
Yeah, I love that. And Clarice, thinking about, you mentioned like all your mentors or sponsors don't have to be like work related or work focused. What would be your approach to finding a mentor that you may or may not know?
I feel like it's about networking. And even if it's somebody that you are in a meeting with and you appreciate the way they delivered it or they hold themselves, I think especially here at Intuit, there is no like hierarchy. I can simply Slack we use Slack messaging to reach out to a VP and to connect with them and get to know them on a more personal basis. It doesn't always have to be, like I said, for specific business reasons. So I think it's really just putting yourself out there, really, and taking every opportunity you have.
Yeah, so in staying with you in those sort of Slack messages, do you have like a formula that's really worked for you to connect with folks that you may have just met in passing in the same meeting?
Sure. Referencing why I'm reaching out, where did I see them, and just getting to know them and tell them a little about my background. And so hopefully that sparks enough interest in them, and they usually do come back and respond, and we make time. So yeah, it's been working out.
No, totally. I think I think I can agree with that. Is acknowledging like what it is you appreciated about what they did or how they showed up in that meeting, and then letting them know what it is that you want to learn from them. So I think one thing that's important is like mentors is kind of driven by the mentee, right? So you as the mentee need to let the mentor know like, hey, this is what I'm trying to learn. Would you be willing to help me be better at that thing? So that's awesome. Anyone else, like Kevin, I know, you said this is your first job out of college. I'm curious, like what your approach has been to finding mentors and sponsors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a really fresh perspective on finding mentors. And so my main drive was I want to be really good in my my day job. And so it was finding someone, and Intuit has a large breadth of people that have been here for 10, 20 years. So being able to connect with that person and say, hey, what made you successful in this job? And how can we meet on a regular basis to make sure that what I'm doing is aligning with that, and so that we're both on the same page. And so in my day job, that's been a really great way for me to, number one, get to know my teammates better, become more, focused on my craft and hone that craft. And then number two, create a network of people. So when that person gets promoted and moves on, they can become a sponsor indirectly of the work that I've been trying to do, because they've been able to see my work ethic previously.
Love that. What about you, Brandon?
I think that, and specifically on the sponsorship, because I think for the mentorship, you guys, you nailed it. But when you start moving over to sponsorship, I think first, if you identify someone that you think could be a sponsor, ideally it starts as a mentorship. So as Clarice was mentioning, you may reach out and say, hey, there's this specific thing that I noticed about you, or hey, I think that I could learn this from you. Would you be willing, to connect with me on a regular basis and learn that? But there's an intentionality behind it, because when you're picking a sponsor, you're identifying a sponsor, it is very specifically someone that has influence, a title, a position, someone that can walk into a room, and when they speak, people will listen and they can advocate for you, right? And so you're intentional about, hey, I want to start this off as a mentorship relationship. But as I've exposed you to enough of, hey, you've given me advice, you've seen that I've come back and actually acted on that advice, or, you see me growing in a specific area that I've been working on you with, or working on that with you. Then you start to move out of, as Latoya puts it, the friend zone, where you ask the question and you say, hey, I would like to know if you would advocate for me, if you would be my sponsor. And very specifically, you tell them, this is what sponsorship looks like. It looks like you going into rooms where I am not and advocating for me to be this role, this title, whatever that may be. And so I think there's an intentionality behind it, because you have to know when you start if this person would be, someone that could potentially be a sponsor in the future.
I love that. Like it's treating it like the relationship as it grows, right? Like you have to kind of introduce yourself, build that rapport, build that trust, and build that connection. I'm curious, like what's the timeline for that? Like, is it, what is the timeline from sending that initial Slack message to getting them to advocate for you in rooms?
It's a great question. I think it could all depend on, what the role is or what your goals are. A lot of it in the role that I'm in now. So I'm in management, and, as I want to continue to move up in this, there's less, I guess, room or opportunity sometimes when you get the higher up you go. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that I always, mention to my direct reports, and I just internalize for myself as well, is like, The only thing that we can control is readiness. And then opportunity is the thing that we can't control, but those are the two dynamics that are at play. And so when you mentioned how long, I think what's important for me and how I think about it is, if I'm walking into a new role, at that point in time, I want to start establishing relationships and building at that board of directors that Clarice was talking about. And then as I then start to realize, okay, maybe I'm ready now after a year or so to start moving into another role, maybe that's the time when I engage them and say, hey, I've been doing this for a year. We've been meeting the last 6 months. I'd like to, see if you would be willing to advocate for me in the next role that I want to be in. So it could be a year, it could be 2 years. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, a wise man once said, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Get ready.
And I think the definition of luck is when preparation and opportunity meet, right? So that's incredible. So kind of putting that time in, so when that opportunity is there, you're not getting ready, you're already ready for it. Kent, I saw you jump off of mute. What's that? What would you like to add?
Yeah, I think I just want to dovetail in what all three of them have said. I want to really emphasize preparation. Brandon said, know what you want, figure out your own goals, your own objectives, what you want to accomplish. I think that's critically important. If you want to approach somebody for help, whether it's a sponsor or a mentor, if you don't know where you want to go, you're probably not going to get the attention from him that you want to have initially. The second thing Clarice said was, when you meet someone, find out who they are. I've always believed in knowing in advance. If I know I'm going to some kind of an event, or I'm going to be with someone or someone's that I think are going to be potentially important to me in my career, then I find out who they are in advance. And when I meet them for the first time, I'm already prepared to connect with them on a personal level, because I know they've got a son in Oklahoma, or they like those pork chops, or whatever it may be. They like restaurants, and so I already know some things about them that I can connect with personally with them, and I think that escalates their interest in wanting to get to know you better, because now there's a bit of a bond there between you and the person you're seeking assistance from. One thing Intuit does that I think is so important is we're always putting out leadership and training classes, much like this program here today on mentoring and sponsoring. Last week, Intuit did a program and invited Dory Clark in. And if you don't know who she is, she's on the faculty at Columbia and Duke, and writes for the Harvard Business Review. And she made a comment that I thought was really important. And she said, seek out people that have gravitas, people that hold themselves out as leaders or mentors in an area that's important to you. And that's the kind of person that I think you want to connect with if you're looking to get to a certain place, certain role, a certain position. As Brandon said, you want to move up in management. Then find someone that's already there that has the gravitas to speak on your behalf, and others listen. That's really important.
Yeah, I love that point of one, getting to know them as humans, right? So, we live in the day and age where information is available. So LinkedIn, you can do a quick Google search of that person to see, like, hey, have they been talking about specific subjects that I care about? What company are they working at? Like, what do they like to do in their free time? Because that'll start to, someone asked about, like, how do you get over the awkwardness, is actually connecting as a human being. And then that last point you made, I love too, Kent, about thinking of someone who has the confidence and the influence to be able to actually advocate for you in the spaces where you don't show up just yet. So thank you for that. So now we're going to move on to Clarice. I have a question for you. So I know you've been leading the API network at Intuit. So talk to me a little bit about what's required of someone who wants to be a mentor or be a sponsor for other folks.
Yeah. First off, my bandwidth is low. If I drop, I'll come back. One of the things that we did was we actually started a mentorship pilot related to the APN Asia Pacific network globally. It was something that we didn't have before, and we identified the need, and so the members were really interested. As part of that launch, we wanted to be sure that mentors were prepared and had expectations from them. And what we had prescribed for them was to be sure that they were invested. They were making them the meetups a priority. And again, all driven by the mentee, but also just to be open, honest, and challenge the mentee, as well as be vulnerable and be open to learn. So I think this is a two-way street. It's not always just one. There's always something that you can learn from the people you have relationships with.
Yeah, 100%. So I think for it being open and actually following through, right? So obviously the mentee should be driving those relationships, setting up those meetings, but for the mentors, like accepting them, showing up, and being sort of transparent with the experiences. And, you know, also I think there's opportunities to kind of share what worked previously in the mentor's career, to kind of give that insight to the mentees to avoid those sort of pitfalls in the future as well. Awesome. So I know we got about 20 minutes left here for the talk. I see you all have found the Q&A section, so we're gonna move on to that in a few minutes. But before we do, I would love to hear from the panelists, starting with you, Brandon. Like, what has been some success stories or maybe a cautionary tale you can share about being on the mentoring side of things and or being a mentee? Like, what's your experience been like?
Yeah, I think, and I love the discussion that we've been having about reaching out to mentors. I think one thing that I want to introduce here as a not necessarily a point of caution, but something that you should almost expect is that there will be some times where you will reach out to someone and they may not want to mentor. One, that's okay. There also may be some times where someone has agreed to mentor you and there is just not a fit. And that's also okay too. And so I think it's just important to acknowledge that. And the one thing that is really, really important for the mentorship relationship to work is like there needs to be care on both sides. Because when a person cares about you growing, or they care about, you know, you accomplishing your goals, they'll make sure they check in, they'll follow up, they'll, you know, if they can't make a meeting, they'll let you know, in advance that, you know, maybe we need to move some things around. I think that's just extremely important. The last thing anybody wants to do is meet month over month. And it's like, we're both here meeting, but nobody really wants to be here. We're just here because we agreed to it 6 months ago. So I think that that's something that's really, really important. It's somewhat of a cautionary thing to look out for. I think success, I mean, to be honest, my life is somewhat of a testimony as it relates to just having folks that have advocated for me. You know, I think that I wouldn't be where I am if someone didn't give me a chance. You know, when I was in college, I got my first internship. I didn't have the grades, but the lady at the career fair was like, "Hey, I'm going to give you a shot if you get your grades up." So she gave me the internship. I worked at Boeing, and I got them up. My first job in product management, I didn't have any product management experience. And they went and advocated for me, and the guy told me that he would give me an opportunity. And even as short as the last 60 days, I've just started a new role here at Intuit as a group product manager. And that came from a relationship that I had built with an executive here at the company who introduced me to this role, which gave me the opportunity to interview for it. So I think it's a very powerful thing to be able to, for us all to be able to humble ourselves and just ask for help. People are willing to help you if you're willing to ask for it. And it's just about being very clear on your goals and asking people to help you get to where you want to go.
I love that. Kent, what anything you would like to add from your 20 plus year career that you want to share about cautionary tales or insights to what success may look like?
Yeah, thanks for that compliment. Make that a 50-year career. I've been a CPA for 51 years now. But I got to tell you, Brandon nailed it. I mean, it's no surprise if you're attending this panel to see why he's moving up. He just gave you some really, I think, very clear insight. First and foremost, I think if you're going to sponsor someone, you have to care about the person, and you have to put their interest in front of your own interest, because you're helping them advance in their career. And then secondly, if you're going to be a mentor, it's critical, I think, that you develop a relationship of trust between the mentor and the mentee, because the mentor is giving the mentee advice on things they need to do. And if the mentee can't trust their mentor, even if it's not something they think they should do, if they can't trust the mentor, then I think that'll impact the relationship. And he's exactly right. You don't always get the right fit. And if you don't get the right fit, it's good. It's okay to say, hey, thanks for the effort and energy. Let's do something different and move along and find the person or persons that really do work for you. Just one example of how that all works out. Again, a privilege of being with Intuit at this late stage in my career. I found out over the weekend, 3 of the people in my org, my team that I've been able to mentor with over the last couple of years, all 3 of them got emails this weekend and got promoted to higher level management positions. So I thought, boy, what a wonderful thing to tell this group today about the success of mentoring. You know, to me, it's really important, and to get those weekend calls from these people going, hey, I got the promotion thanks to you. Well, obviously, that was a lot more than just me, but it sure makes you feel great as a mentor.
Yeah, I love that. I think that speaks to the success of what it's like to be a mentor. And it's not just about the one-on-one relationships, but you get to play a huge part in the success of others. And Kevin, I would love to hear, from you, like, what has been some success and what has been some learning things that you've have experienced being a mentee.
I would say that the biggest successes I've had from a mentorship program, or when the mentorship program, for at least the first couple of meetings, are structured. Hey, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about that, to get to know each other and sort of build a foundational relationship. And then it can become more casual and more ad hoc as you go on. But I found in the mentorships that I've been in, that's been sort of the most successful structure for those. In sponsorships, I would say doing the same thing that Brandon and Kent just did, where you're speaking and not being afraid to speak and bring about your successes, so that they have some ammunition when they go and advocate for you. They can bring some bodies of work to the table and say, hey, this is why I'm advocating for Kent. Not just because I agreed to do it, but also because here's the work and the outcomes to be able to drive through that.
Yes, love that. Love that so much too. And this reminds me of someone mentioned imposter syndrome. So sometimes we feel like we can't own our success for it being bragging. But one of my favorite quotes is like, it's not bragging if it's facts. So own that experience. So thank you for that. And I think we got about 15 minutes left and the Q&A is blowing up. So I'm going to go to our first question. This is a good one, and Clarice, I'll start with you. What boundaries exist inside a mentorship or sponsorship relationship, and how do you navigate those boundaries successfully? Uh-oh. Do we lose Clarice? I think we lost.
Yeah, I think her internet froze.
Uh-oh. Clarice, are you back with us?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Okay, I'll run it back. So,
Sorry.
What boundaries exist inside a mentorship, and how do you navigate those boundaries successfully?
I think one of the first things is just, again, being open and honest about that. I also think you should provide the space as you are starting that relationship to check in to make sure it's still beneficial for both of you, right? Because maybe after a month, you're realizing, nope, this isn't really what I was looking for. I'm looking for something else, and feel comfortable about that. I think it's just keeping those lines of communication open and being honest about it, and providing where you are feeling a little uncomfortable if you have to talk about boundaries.
Yeah, I love that. And I think just to add is just thinking about like, hey, what are our ways of operating? Like, are we meeting? What's the cadence that we're meeting? Can I contact you outside of our meeting times? If so, what's the best channel? Do you prefer Slack? Do you prefer email? Do we get to the phone number stage? Like, what does that actually look like? And I think that's good in addition to what you were sharing. there as well. Does anyone else have anything else to add around boundaries?
Yeah, I'd just like to make one comment about that too, Adrian. I got to go back and say, I think a great mentor-mentee relationship is based on trust. Oftentimes, you choose a mentor that's already gotten to where you want to get to, and along the way, they've learned that there's do's and there's don'ts, and there are things that are important and things that aren't important. You get a lot of process and procedure and rules in corporations, and some you need to follow and some are not as important as others. And so in that mentor-mentee relationship, the mentor is going to be frank and honest with you, but as the mentee, you got to guard their trust. You can't go outside of that relationship and discuss the information that the mentor and mentee are sharing, because that's a breach of the trust, I think, between the mentor and mentee. So I think early on, I think the mentee has to say to the mentor, you can trust me. If you're going to help me, I'm going to be trustworthy. I think that's critical.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to move on to the next question. So someone has a question around advice for building or tapping into, like, getting a mentor that's external to your current company. So it seems like some folks who've been in a career at a company for maybe 10 or plus years, a lot of that network seems to be inside the company. Any thoughts on externalizing your mentorship outside of the current role or current company?
Yeah, I think that, similar to what Clarice mentioned, we have our internal communication tool here at Intuit called Slack, and so that we can message each other. But there's the same types of tools exist externally if you think about LinkedIn. And I think, now that we're moving outside of, we're kind of post-COVID, if you will, or we're now having more meetups and social gatherings. It's good to understand, again, it kind of goes back to what are your goals? What are the things that you're trying to learn or grow in? And then are there meetups, are there networking events in your local area that you can start going into and networking, right? And maybe there's people that you're intentional, you want to meet with. So as Kent mentioned, you can look them up on LinkedIn and go and connect with them and get their business card, ask them if they have 20 minutes for coffee, not necessarily for lunch for the first meeting, because that's an hour or more that you might be sitting there, but maybe just a coffee for 20 minutes would be a good time for you to introduce yourself and learn more about them. Those are some things that you can do outside of the company, some kind of networking tactics to start building your relationships and network outside of where you are.
Yeah, love that. Meetups, huge way to meet new people outside of the company. And then I saw some questions around, like, how do I find like a mentor when I don't have an internship? The meetups and live events is a great opportunity to connect with folks in the roles that you're seeking and learn the language of the field or discipline you're going into. So Clarice, I have a question for you. So what are your thoughts? Maybe Clarice and Kevin, I would love to get your perspective on this, because this is around like formal mentorship programs for employees. And Kevin, I know you've been part of a formal mentorship program, and Clarice, I know that you've coordinated one. So would love to hear your thoughts on what works about them, what could be improved about them, or any general feedback about formal mentoring programs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for when we started building our program, number one, doing a voice of employee, making sure we were out there talking to people about what their needs are, where they are in their careers, how can we help them, right? Especially with the Asia Pacific Network, we're trying to support more leaders to be Asian. I haven't, growing up, I didn't see a lot of that representation. So providing that support as well as the space to talk about like cultural differences and how to embrace them as we're moving through this workplace. Another thing was that we want to be able to co-create this program with those folks. We don't do it in a silo, and we want to get all the perspectives. Again, this diversity of thought. And then finally, we are expecting to get a lot of learnings from it. Absolutely, Victoria. The bamboo ceiling, we actually were reading that as part of our mentorship program. But we know we're going to change, we're going to learn a lot, and we're going to improve it. So that's why we started with the pilot, so we can learn and continue to scale.
My take would be ERGs are obviously a great place, like she just mentioned, to find mentorship, especially if they're external from your current role. And that can be really powerful too, having someone that's not in your business unit per se to be able to advocate for you or give you that insight. I would say direct managers are also a great place because they're talking with everybody on the team. They're able to see who be open to a mentorship if it's someone more senior on the team, as a way for you to get better at your craft and your day job. So those are two super great areas to engage on mentorship and sponsorship.
Yes, I love that. And I know, Kevin, we were a part of that same mentorship program through the Intuit African Ancestry Network. And I think, Brandon, you were in one of them as well. It also gives you that structure too. Like, I think we all had a formal sort of, hey, this is what your first 3 meetings is going to be like. So for someone who asked about the awkwardness of getting over, asking someone for help, formalized mentorship programs definitely give you the framework and the space to navigate those conversations too. All right, so I think we got time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions. I'm going to flip the script here. So any advice for breaking up with a mentor should a relationship no longer be valuable to either party? Kent, what are your thoughts on breaking up with a mentee or a mentor?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I guess it would play right back into my earlier comment about trust. If you're a trustworthy person, then you got to be honest. And if the relationship is just simply not working, you have to respect the person's time, whether you're the mentor or the mentee. If you're not the right fit, let's just say I'm the mentor. If this person's not the right fit for me, but I have mentor skills, I need to apply those skills to someone else. And if I'm the mentee and this person I'm just not connecting, same thing. I need to find a mentee that can actually accomplish the mentoring I need. And so I think it's like anything in life. I think you just have to be frank and honest. And the sooner you do it, the better off everybody is. It never benefits from letting it drag out. I would just get straight in a Zoom meeting. And by the way, face to face. I always like face to face. I would just have a face to face meeting and be thankful for the time invested and just suggest that, this is probably not the best fit for me and maybe not for you either. And I appreciate your time, and move on.
100%. Like, my grandmother has this saying where she says, thanks for your time, that's all of my time. And I feel like that's like a perfect way to kind of pass that on there as well. And all good things come to an end. Even with therapists, right? Like, if you just going to therapy and talking about what you're talking about and it's no longer like a process, then just find a mutual time to end that relationship. Clarice, I saw you jumped off of mute. What's up? Oh no, I think we lost her again, but she froze in such a nice fashion. So when she comes back, we'll throw it back over to her. Let's see. We got a question around Afrotech. Brendan, I know you spoke at Afrotech last year, so someone wants to know if Intuit will be present there.
We will be present at Afrotech this year. There will be a number of us that will attend. We will have a booth. And so if you all are present and would like to learn more about Intuit or just come and say hello, please do so.
Yes, pull up on us. I'll be there. I know Brandon will be there. Kevin, are you coming?
I will be in attendance, yes.
Yes, let's go. So you can meet us in real life if you'll be in Austin for Afrotech. So I think this is a really good way to end here. So someone says, I have my first meeting with my mentor today. What are good questions to ask and things to talk about?
I think so. I recently had this experience, and I think, as Kent mentioned, one thing that is really important to establish is trust. And I think you establish trust through transparency. And one of the things that we do, even here at the company, which surprised me when I joined the company, to be honest, is when we go through our journey lines, which essentially is our life story. And you talk about, the things that you've experienced over the course of your life, the highs and the lows. And I think that's a great way to establish and kind of create that connection with a mentor is just giving them an insight into who you are, your background, and stepping out on the ledge a little bit and being transparent about your journey. It's not all about, none of us here on this call or anyone out there, all of what we've experienced aren't all highs. So it's important to make sure that you share the things that we may struggle with, or the challenges that we have or have gone through, just to provide that visibility to the mentor. And you'll see that transparency begets transparency. They will be transparent with you as well. And so I think that's a great way to start off the conversation, is just getting to know each other on a deeper level.
Love that.
I wanted to add, I think going along with the same thoughts is, obviously there's some introspection that needs to happen before going into this meeting, but maybe you being vulnerable and maybe sharing your defining moments of your life conveys to that person like that you're open and what's your thought process to make these decisions. And then you can kind of see how they reflect that.
Love that. So we got 2 more minutes here as well. I just wanted to take the time to thank you all as our panelists for sharing your insights and experiences with this audience today. And I just wanted to thank the audience for their fantastic questions and your attention and intention here joining us. So I know folks are interested in working at Intuit and thinking of internships. Look in the chat. Aaron has just posted a link to our careers website, intuit.com/careers. You can go there to see updates for current open roles. And yes, if you all have any, well, I guess not more questions because we only got a minute left, but thank you so much for joining us here today. And we would love to get your feedback in the survey that launches once the meeting has closed. So,
hey, Adrian, can I make one just final comment?
At the buzzer, let's do it.
Yeah, so, I think I mentioned I've been at this a long time, Big 4 accounting firm, top 15 worldwide company, a lot of big things. Intuit is a real deal. No matter where you are in your career, I never thought I'd be as proud to be affiliated with a company as I am with this particular company. It genuinely does put the effort in to give you the opportunity to reach your career goals. So if you're looking at us, you're looking at a great company. I just have to say that.
Love that. And I think we can all kind of +1 to that experience, or we wouldn't even be sharing that here today. So yeah, just as my grandmother says, thanks for your time. That's all of our time. Hope you all have a great rest of the week, and we look forward to seeing you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.